right, welcome to another episode of the Automotive Intel Report, LinkedIn Live. What's happening? We got a very special guest today, a guy that I had an opportunity to meet through a mutual friend, none other than SJ 24/7, Scott Joseph, the CEO of J&L Marketing. I had a chance to meet this gentleman, Mr. Rob Ruth, out at NADA in 2019, just before the lockout, or the lockdown, excuse me. 2020. I get that right? 2020?
2020.
I have COVID, like mathematical issues. I promise you. It just did something to distort my conception of time.
Among some others, but it's okay.
Yeah, no doubt. Exactly, no doubt. But, the thing that impressed me most was that we had a chance to chop it up on the floor at NADA. And I knew right away after we had a chance to spend about 45 minutes with Scott being interviewed regarding leadership and culture, that we just saw things so similarly. So I want to welcome Rob Ruth, the president of Bob Ruth Ford in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. He is also a serial entrepreneur, married to an awesome young lady. I call her 40 Young. And you should follow her, by the way, on Instagram because she's got it going on for sure. But Rob, before we get started, we're just going to pay the bills here at Sandy Cerami Associates and the Automotive Intel Report Live. So just bear with me 1 second. This episode is sponsored by SCA 365 Recruiting by Sandy Cerami Associates. Most dealers and GMs have become frustrated trying to find high-quality people to hire and help them continue growing their businesses. Most of us are sick and tired of being sick and tired of hearing about the great resignation or the mass migration to working from home. Our SCA 365 recruiting system features our proprietary recruiting funnel. It's designed to attract top talent the minute they are in the marketplace, when they are at high noon for a career change or a new opportunity. We recently kicked off 3 campaigns, Ron, where we were able to deliver an incredible 249 applications in less than 60 days. So we know our system works. Dealers and GMs can end the distraction of how, where, and when to recruit top talent and focus on running and growing their businesses. Learn how to get started easily and download your free copy of the PDF, The 7 Deadly Recruiting Sins You Need to Know Now, by going to sandycerami.com/SCA365 recruiting today. All right. So we have one other sponsor, my guys over at Priority Payments Local, Sal and Angelo and their team. Whether it's supply chain disruptions, the rising cost of everyday business, or OEM programs requiring yet another dealer investment, dealer profitability seems to always be under siege. Their net zero technology at Priority Payment Systems helps dealerships reduce and even eliminate processing fees once and for all, saving dealerships 5, 6, even 7 figures per year. As a matter of fact, Ron, we looked at one dealership recently, over $400,000 per year in savings, net savings to the dealership. That drops right to the bottom line. Dealers can then reinvest or redeploy their recovered capital any way they choose, giving them total control over their hard-earned profits. They can visit sandycerami.com/priority today for a free analysis. And if they can't save your dealership money, they'll give you a $50 gift card just for trying. All right. So check it out today. Terms and conditions do apply. Now, we got that out of the way. Let's get to my man, Mr. Rob Ruth.
What's up, man?
I talked about the fact that, but let me also welcome my man, Ron Marvo, my right-hand guy on the right-hand side.
Hey, about me, it's about Rob, baby.
Right.
No, today is about Rob. That's right, my Golden Gloves guy.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Rob.
Yep.
Rob, the one thing that, as I said in the intro, that you and I had such a great opportunity to spend some time and discuss out at NADA in Vegas a couple years back was leadership and culture. And I think that you embody and personify the things that I love most about, very strong, dedicated, servant-based leadership, somebody that's willing to blaze a path, make difficult, decisive decisions when they need to be made. Let's talk a little bit about the COVID lockdown and how that affected your business, and ultimately, what types of decisions did you have to make? How did you have to work with your people? What did you do initially when the lockdown hit us?
Well, it was a panic. I mean, honestly, when you're normally operating, and then all of a sudden within a week, you're deemed non-essential, and you have to basically figure out what that means. What does non-essential mean, and what can you do and what can't you do? Mm-hmm. We figured out we could not deliver a car in Pennsylvania. Okay, mm-hmm. We couldn't deliver a car. We could sell a car, but we couldn't deliver a car.
Right.
Okay. what that meant, obviously, we didn't know what the market was going to do, and it dropped at the time. We realized that we could still communicate with people, and we could talk to people like this. We could talk to them on the phone. We could answer internet leads. We could communicate with our customers. And we found out that people actually liked that type of communication. And we provided information that they were looking for, that prior to that, it was set the appointment.
Right.
Well, we couldn't set an appointment, right? So people couldn't come in the showroom. We weren't allowed to have guests. We weren't allowed to deliver a car, but we could still communicate with our customers, and we could still work car deals with people remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that decision kind of led us to, at that point in time, I mean, we had to make some hard decisions on who was going to stay on board, who wasn't going to stay on board. And that came to really those that could adapt, those that actually had an open mind that, hey, these are the constraints. This is what we have to do right at this moment. We don't know how long it's going to last, but we're going to do the best we can to, keep something moving. So within that COVID,
it's funny because when we talked about it early on, I remember you saying that the hardest part was deciding who was going to stay and who was going to go ultimately, based on the fact that you had zero revenue coming into the dealership.
Zero. Our service department was open, but we, it couldn't have come at a worse time for our company. We had just scaled and we were on fire. I mean, March of 2020, February of 2020 was a great month. We had scaled, we had hired people, we had a ton of inventory, we had the marketing plans. I mean, we were like all in, just going 1,000 miles an hour. And then it was like, you just hit a brick wall.
Yep.
So, okay.
Someone pulled the e-brake.
Yeah. Like, okay, now what? But like I said, what could we do? We weren't complete victims. What could we do in that moment? I was in my position. I was forced to make some very tough decisions, but they were based on those that could adapt and those that would understand the situation we were in, and then who could, maneuver within it. So it was about a month, I guess, that, we couldn't deliver a car.
Yep.
There was very minimal communication from the government. When's this going to end? We didn't know. So we just kept the machine moving. We kept the BDC open, and we did whatever we could. We were taking cars to show people. We were doing video walkarounds. We were working car deals remote. And we sold a lot of cars with very few people at that point in time. So we learned a lot.
You made significant adjustments to how you did business. It wasn't simply a matter of deciding how you were going to structure the personnel and staffing. It was really, you did a 360-degree adjustment, meaning you looked at your business all the way around and adjust how you did business. How did you look at the processes, and how did you ultimately determine how you were going to go to market with the new process?
Well, we realized that people were contacting us for information. Okay. And instead of trying to hold back information, we used that information to kind of help the customer further down the sales process. And we shared it. We just shared information. We were giving them trade values. We're working payments. We're doing all your old school write-ups. We were doing in situations like this. Okay. Where before it was just the funnel was, okay, you get a lead, you set an appointment, you get a show, which turns into a sale. Well, you kind of have to take the show and the sale away. And we want to take that, first customer interaction and turn it into a sale with those constraints.
Yep.
So those were the moves that we made, and I think we're still working on them and still really trying to get better at that process, because there's a ton of opportunity there. The problem was when, hey, we were allowed to go back open, old habits start coming back.
For sure.
Want to go and say, hey, this is, we can do this way.
Yep.
But it's go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
For me, it was like, well, didn't we learn anything? Like, the customers were telling us, man, this is awesome. You saved us time. Once we were able, we sold 100 and some cars in a short period of time. And then when it came to delivery, they were in and out within 30 minutes. And I was like, this is brilliant. We got to do it.
Yeah. It's funny how, as human beings, we tend to kind of revert back to where we're most comfortable, or what we're used to doing. But I think one of the things you did that I thought was smart was you specialized. You took people that were particularly good in a particular area of the process and really had them hyper focused on that area of the process. Talk a little bit about how people had to adjust, because you talk about adaptability as a great leadership trait, and I agree with you. People that are able to adapt tend to rise to the top, during times of crisis. Was specialization a big piece of what you did in terms of re-engineering the processes that you were using?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we all have talents in some certain ways, so we want to play to our strengths with people as well. If you're really good at new cars and your product, then we'll filter that, that particular customer to this person.
Right.
We also, which was, I think that you and I've talked about it. We worked as a team. I mean, we had so many things going on as a group. It wasn't this survival of the fittest old school salesman. It was like, okay, what can we do here as a group? And we realized we could accomplish a lot more as a group than having 10 different individuals going their own separate ways. So
No question.
that was really a huge part of, the evolution, I think, of this. Then we took the group thing a little bit too far. We had to get more individual accountability back in. So, I mean, it's just been like back and forth.
It's funny. Talk about that, Rob, because it's funny when the pendulum does swing, we tend to push, really hard in one direction and not realize that we've got to keep that balance. Ultimately, what were some of the challenges you had when it went just a little too far on the group side?
Well, I mean, some things can get hidden in the group, and you lose that individual accountability.
That's what I was looking for.
That you can have in a group. So, okay, it works well in a group, but you also have to have the individual accountability within the group. How do we move forward with this? So that's transition to new positions within the company. I mean, we have team leaders, we have assistant team leaders, we have career paths for people a lot better than we ever did prior to COVID.
Rob, would you say that that's the biggest takeaway from the negative that was COVID in that environment for you guys? Do you think that was the biggest positive that you could take out of that whole thing?
Absolutely. I mean, we function as a group, but we still have that individual aspect to it where you can succeed as an individual, but you're also part of something else, which helps you when the group does better too. And I love the fact that, we just don't have that's my deal. That's skating. I mean, we have people that can, you don't have to work. Our hours are until 6:00 every night. Okay. Yep. So my team actually gets an opportunity to be with their family and be productive. Okay. Take the time off that they need, but also has a group that's working for them in that time. So they've really evolved with that. And it's so much better than, when I first started in the industry. I mean, it was if you make it, you make it. And if you don't, good luck,
Right. Well, you bring up the topic of career pathing, and I think that's critical. Ron and I discuss that all the time, how important it is to show people that they've got an opportunity to blaze a path in your dealership organization. As a matter of fact, Ron, we talk about the 7 deadly recruiting sins, and one of them is not sharing the internal stories about your dealership where you've had success, where somebody's started at the bottom and worked their way to the top of a team or top of a department or a top of the dealership as a GM or a fixed operations director. And so, I think that's a critical piece of the success puzzle, is showing people that there's a bigger opportunity for them than where they may be residing right then and there professionally.
Correct. And I think young people today, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a career path. I mean, I think they get a bad stereotype. I mean, I remember prior to COVID, it was millennials, and that was those millennials. I think that they're extremely bright. I think that they're driven. Okay. They just want a path. They want some mentorship. They are not how you and I started in this, Sandy, where that survival of the fittest mentality.
Yeah.
They're used to that, maybe that participation trophy. That's not the word, but that's the way they grew up. That's not their fault. Okay. So we just need to acknowledge it. And how can we work that within our organizations and adapt our organizations in a positive way for everybody here. And I think we're really figuring that out. I wouldn't say we're 100% there yet. I mean, there's plenty of room for growth, but that's the path that we're on.
No, but you do your best to mesh both ideologies together, right? Rob?
Correct. And
Both generations.
Great point.
Truthfully, and I'm kind of, I'm middle-aged man. Okay. So I'm
Look
middle-aged
how that
man.
makes me, buddy. If
Yeah, right. Like,
what it makes me.
I've got millennials on one side of me, and I've got baby boomers on the other side of me. Okay. And honestly, there's a lot of similarities here.
Yeah.
Because the baby boomers are those that, hey, maybe I'm starting to retire. They want more freedom. They want more flexibility and time off. And so do these younger people.
That's right.
And it's like, okay, now if we put this all together, and this group's great with technology, this group's terrible with technology, how do we work together that maybe you can teach your experience to this younger group, and also you can teach your knowledge to this group? That's what we got going on, and that's what I love about our organization right now.
Yeah.
That's where.
Well, you bring up a great point where we are bookended. You and I are part of the, I think, 13th generation, and we are bookended by the millennials as well as the baby boomers. And look, they represent unique talents, unique challenges for us as well, but it's certainly unique talents. And I love the way that you've been able to adjust and adapt, to make sure that you're being able to utilize those and leverage their talents and give them the opportunities that they're looking for. How do you identify up and coming leaders in your organization right now? What are the personality traits that you look for, and what type of conversations or leadership path do you provide for them to help them grow?
Well, I don't think it's much different than when we go back to COVID. Okay. At that time, who we wanted to keep, okay, who we had to keep. It was those that have an open mind, those that aren't just stuck in their ways. I think those are the leaders of today that are actually willing to kind of break free from the norm and try new things and adapt, learn and teach. Those are the leaders that I want on my team, that you're able to, we're in a competitive industry. Okay.
no question.
But we need to learn how to cooperate as a group. Okay. And learn from one another and teach one another. And then that's the victory to me. Those are the people I want on my team. Those that, hey,
I love that. I love what you just said, because every one of us, if you're going to be a leader, you better be a learner first.
Yeah.
And be willing
that
to
goes
learn.
For me too. I mean, I want to learn new skills, and there, this technology, there's a lot of trial and error, what works, what doesn't.
Absolutely.
But also when I find that I'm out searching for it, then I have to have people that are open to it, that are going to utilize it for us to succeed as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, Ron and I are a two-man team, but whenever he has something to say, I'm willing to listen to it, because his perspective is different than mine. And I'm not ashamed to tell you that there's been plenty of times where he's been right, or he's been able to get me to look at something a little bit differently. And I've learned something along the way, and it has nothing to do with age or experience. It has a lot to do with perspective.
100%.
In my opinion.
Yeah. And that's what I love too. So I'm not out there looking for the talent out there in our industry. I'm rather find that person that wants an opportunity, in the public. Good people that we can develop into something else. And we want to teach them the skills of today, not necessarily the skills of 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So how do we get somebody that looking for that opportunity? And for us, you probably start in our call center. Okay. You're going to learn how to use the CRM. You're going to learn how to communicate with people when they're not necessarily in front of you. And you're going to learn that discipline and those habits of, okay, I might have to make 200 calls today, and I'm going to have to put the notes in, and I'm going to have to communicate because someone else is going to read this. If you can show me that you're willing to do that grind and you can succeed there, then the next step would be, hey, you're kind of on the sales floor. You already have these skills. We want to build upon them. Mm-hmm. We're just going to improve your selling skills and closing skills, and how to serve that customer the way that they need to be served.
I love that the foundation you're using is teaching them rock solid communication skills under the toughest of circumstances, when somebody's not necessarily sitting across from you. And so you use that as the foundation before you even talk about developing any sales or closing skills.
Right. Well, the up bus is gone. It never showed up. Sandy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's never coming. That's the way I look at it.
Listen,
I
Rob,
look at
we feel the exact same way. I mean, that's why we developed the 7 Pillars of Killer Business Development platform, because we know that, you have to operate like a business within a business if you're a salesperson in any business these days, whether it's retail, automotive, real estate, insurance sales,
all of it.
B2B, it makes no
Yeah.
difference. If
It's all the same.
if you can't cultivate a book of business on your own, the potential for you starving is pretty real.
Agree 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the teamwork part that you said before is so important, but knowing that your team, the individuals know that they're their own intangible brands, and they see that every day on social media, right? Like you see so many people that are their own influencers, icons, inspirations, a little homage to our podcast.
Little shameless plug, my man.
Yeah,
but give people the opportunity within the company that they can have their own business, their own brand. I'll foster it as far as they want to go, and the worst case scenario, if they move on and we were able to help them and they are succeeding, then
part of their journey.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm glad to be a part of that.
Let me ask you this question, buddy. When we talk about developing leaders within the organization, a lot of times we're promoting from within, and we're promoting somebody that has spent a lot of time as a peer and then has an opportunity to assume a leadership level. What kind of training or development are you providing to them so that they can handle the transition from being a peer to being somebody that's got leadership responsibilities and accountability for performance or production within the department?
Well, I think it's communication. I think leaders learn from other leaders. So we need to have, you and I have talked about it. It's not old school as you have a GM and everything goes to the GM, right? It's just like all decisions flow to the GM. And that is not, I've learned the hard way that'll take you so far, but that's not going to take you to the next level, where we've got to develop leaders to the point where they want to develop other leaders. Okay.
Yeah. And that's Maxwell. That right there is Maxwell.
Right. You want to develop other leaders. I mean, we've got to first, obviously, we want to get the relationship with people. They got to know that we care. We have to have our goals are the same as them, as their success. And we got to show them to win. And then we got to develop them to a point and figure out what the next step is. But finding those leaders within is huge.
Yeah, no question. And getting, I think, to the heart of what drives and inspires and motivates them on a daily basis, that's so critically important in terms of making a decision as to when it's time to promote somebody, identifying when they're ready, right? When they have the right motivation, where it's not simply self-guided, or I shouldn't say self-directed, if you will. It's something that's more about, how do I help others around me? How do I help the business grow, et cetera? It has very little to do with them and a lot more to do with the team element, as you talked about before.
And I think people really struggle at that point in time. That's where the leadership is either going to go one way or the other. You got to be selfless. You're going to have to focus on everybody else. And in order for you to win, they have to win first.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, parking the ego, and talking in terms of, as you said before, how you can help others grow and help others perform. It's a servant leadership mentality for sure, but also not shying away from doing some of the dirty work and some of the things that may be quote unquote beneath the title that you currently
Nothing is beneath you,
right?
Exactly. Nothing is beneath you.
We're all the same amount of human, man. At the end of the day. So we can all pick up a shovel and shovel the lot and clean off the cars.
Agreed.
I've heard you said that before, Rob.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting to know people, like you said, Sandy, getting to know what makes them tick. What are their personal, professional, financial goals? Okay. And really making that your mission to help them accomplish it and show them how they can do it within the organization and giving them that path on, okay, follow my lead here, because we want to accomplish the same thing, which is you accomplishing those things.
No question.
That's the key, and getting that alignment the whole way through the organization.
Yeah, and you said can do, and that's really at the heart of Bob Ruth Ford, in my opinion, in my experience, is the can do internally, right? What can we do to help you grow? What can we do to help you advance your career internally? And then externally, I can speak from very personal experience, because I referred a couple of my friends your way for vehicles, And you guys have done an incredible job each and every time. And again, these folks are not coming from around the corner. They're not out in Dillsburg. They're Jersey folks. And very recently had a friend of mine, Joe, who owns a significant contracting company here in New Jersey, was looking for a pickup truck. And I reached out to you last August to see if you'd be able to help them out, which you were more than willing to do. And we went through a little bit of a challenge because of the supply chain disruptions that are in the marketplace right now, and a little bit of a lack of communication on the manufacturer's part from time to time. They've got a tough road these days, trying to get vehicles through the production facilities and onto dealer lots on a timely basis. But talk a little bit about that experience from your end, and I'll talk about it from my end, because the ultimate result was that we made a customer really, really happy.
Well, I mean, there's no supply on the ground, right? So to get him what he wanted, the only way we could do it was ordering from the factory.
Yep.
Okay. So we place the order, we follow what they tell us to do. We go through the process. How long is used from August until now? What is that? 8 months? Yeah. 8 months. Well, we find out now at the point where you and I talked a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
That car's never going to get built. Okay. The constraints are there. He's going to get pushed to the next model year, which could be another, who knows, 6, 8, 9 months later. So we're kind of in this position where we got to help Joe figure out what it is. And my team did a great job, and I appreciate you reaching back out to me. And we were like, we're going to figure this out. We found him a vehicle. Okay. It suited his needs. And, we were able to help him sooner than later. So
absolutely,
we got to take that approach with everybody. It's very difficult navigating the information from the manufacturer, which changes every day, and then recognizing it's really about Joe. He's the guy that is ultimately who we're trying to help here. So,
well, Rob, I'll tell you the thing that I love most about the entire experience. And look, it was difficult because it's hard to tell people that 8 months later, the vehicle's probably not going to be built this model year. He had been pushed back a model year already. And the reason why I believe Joe was so understanding is because there was an incredible level of communication throughout that entire period of time. And so, you guys really do walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. George, who was one of your selling professionals over there at Bob Ruth Ford, he deserves a major shout out and a round of applause, because he took every single phone call that I made to him. He responded to every single text. He talked to me on his day off more than once. Made no apologies or excuses, just said, these are the facts. We're working hard towards figuring out what we can do to satisfy Joe and get something done for him. He was as frustrated as anybody.
100%.
And I got to give Jeremy a shout out too, because Jeremy didn't hesitate, got involved immediately, returned my phone calls promptly, spoke to Joe personally. You got involved personally. The Ford rep got involved personally. And it just epitomizes what you said in terms of strong leadership. That is taking responsibility, holding yourself accountable, communicating to the point where you may feel like you're over communicating, but I think you were just communicating enough to make sure that we saved that client for Bob Ruth Ford and for Ford as well, because the text which I shared with you that I got after he took delivery with the picture said it all. He was completely satisfied by the experience.
Well, that's awesome. And, there's a lot that you shout out to George. George cares about his customer first.
He really does.
If somebody comes to me, and it's especially a friend of mine or a relative, I'm going to put them with George because I know that he's going to treat them like he would his own family.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to learn from that. And, I hope as younger people come up in this world, we can really teach that to them, those relationships. And actually caring about the customer and putting them first will ultimately lead to your success.
No question about it. It's empathy and compassion, and then being willing to put the work in behind it to figure out how to get something done. That can-do approach, I think, is that thread that ties your organization together. I've never once spoken to anybody in your organization where I didn't feel as though they weren't working towards getting something done, as opposed to making an excuse or scapegoating somebody else. Every single time that I've had an interaction with Bob Ruth Ford, it's been a pleasant one, and it's been a professional one, and it's been a productive one. And I think that stems from the tippy top, buddy. I mean, the speed of the leader is always the speed of the pack, and your fingerprints are all over the organization.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, don't thank me, buddy. You're doing it.
You
Right?
you
could go look in the mirror and thank the guy in the mirror, and maybe you give 40 Young a little nod as well, because she keeps you accountable at home. But let's switch gears for a second. Let's talk about what we see happening over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. The business is not going to get easier. It's going to be more challenging, I believe. I believe there's going to be tremendous opportunity, but I think there's going to be more challenge as well. What do you see with respect to the used vehicle market specifically over the next 12 to 18 months? Carvana absolutely taking it on the chin right now. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are not fans of Carvana, and I know they're rooting for their demise. I think they're kind of writing their epitaph a little prematurely. I will say this. I know what Carvana has done from a negative and from a positive for our industry. They woke a lot of people up in this business, and they're forcing us to get uncomfortable in terms of how we've got to adjust our business models. But, what are you focused on internally, and what challenges do you want your team to be aware of as we move forward with the used vehicle market?
Well, I think you need to look at it first from a new vehicle perspective. We've produced a lot less vehicles in the last 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, a lot of us as dealers, we sell a lot of late model pre-owned vehicles.
Sure.
That's going to keep that price going up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from working for a Ford dealership, there's no allocation coming to us.
Right.
There's no allocation. They are going to fulfill retail orders first, and they're already behind on retail orders. So there's no stock coming that's going to be on the ground.
Yep.
Anywhere. All right. And getting that message across is huge. But then that's going to also influence the pre-owned market. Okay. It's going to keep the prices high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's very competitive, because if there's less, maybe demand is going to go down. We don't know what's going to happen. Who knows? Okay. But it's going to be very competitive from a wholesale perspective. Right?
I would agree 100%. How do you see it impacting parts and service, and what are you guys doing to address that?
I mean, we're just doing whatever we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a part, we're going to figure out how to get it. Especially in the pre-owned, where it used to be, hey, we buy all from Ford. We might have to look other avenues to
Absolutely.
get it. We might have to pay more to get it, but we can't afford to let something sit. So, the cost of paying more for that part to get the vehicle operational is more beneficial than waiting the time associated. I mean,
I'll tell you, that's a great point. And that's why it becomes critical for dealerships to understand that, it's the totality of your expense structure right now that you have to be taking a look at, because you're going to have additional cost to sale, which is going to erode some gross profitability on the front end of your store, and certainly in the parts side and service side of your business. Taking a look at other ways that you can reduce expenses to increase your net bottom line result is critically important.
100%. For us in the pre-owned market, our business model was, me personally, I started going to auctions when I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the first things that I learned in our business, was going to the auction, buying and selling cars.
Right.
That auction model, it is not, you could go to your local you could go to your local auction and you're competing against your local dealers. Well, that's not the way it is today. So we're in Pennsylvania. Well, Texas might be on fire. Okay. They'll pay more in Texas than our customers are going to pay in Pennsylvania.
Sure.
All right. Well, they're buying the inventory here. There's nowhere for us to go. So we had to get creative. We started a buying center about a year ago. And that's what we do. We buy a lot of cars from the public. We have a whole department now. Thank God we started it when we did. But we went from zero to, we're buying 200 plus a month from the public already. And we need to scale that before we can scale any other part of our business. So
yeah, I'll tell you, the thing about that, Rob, that is really interesting to me is that, we look at it as inventory acquisition and an opportunity to sell them another vehicle for sure. But in a few instances, I'm sure you're finding that you're really acting like a bank for folks that need to get their hands on capital or cash quickly. And the first opportunity they can to sell a vehicle at the height of the market, and maybe they'll go from, 3 vehicles in a household to 2, or from 2 to 1, or from 1 to none and go to public transportation. I think dealers need to identify the opportunities within their marketplace to become that quote unquote bank for folks so that they can, liquidate an asset that has some cash value to them.
You're providing a service, so it's
Yeah.
it's a new part of
No
our
question.
business. It's not, we're just trying to provide them a service when they're selling their car, make it easier.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we write you a check on the spot. We can take care of your registration work for you. We'll come to you. How do we simplify that for that consumer that might want to liquidate their vehicle and put it into cash or take advantage of the market? Like if you bought a car 2-3 years ago and what it's worth now, it's an appreciating asset.
Absolutely.
So, hey, I mean, you might want to capitalize on it right now.
No question about it. No question. So just out of curiosity, as we talk about that used vehicle market and the appreciation in terms of values, what mix do you see the used vehicle portion of your business becoming over the next 12 to 18 months? Do you see an increase or a decrease in terms of the overall mix?
I mean, we've been a 5-to-1 used to new. I mean, that's our ratio.
Wow.
I mean, we're very unique in that aspect. I mean,
Wow. That's a number, buddy. That's awesome.
I love used cars. I mean, it's just we can be more of an entrepreneur, and it's nothing against the factory, but it's you're at the mercy of a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
I want my own business where we can kind of maneuver it the way we want to do it. I mean, it's going to have to grow.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. Now, I also want to say you made the move. I know that's not Pennsylvania behind you right now. Any plans to open something up in Florida?
I no, not at this point in time. If I scale anywhere, it would be with my team in Pennsylvania.
Okay, good.
No question.
And I made that move just because of some of the things that we talked about. I can have a different perspective with my team. I'm looking at things that maybe they don't see on that day to day. And we work together, and I can work remotely. I'll go back once a month, see people face to face. But it was a great move. It was challenging, but it was thought out and planned.
Well, I know, and it was decisive. I remember having the conversation with you when you did make the move, and I respect the crap out of you because nobody realizes when you make a move like that and you've got kids involved, not easy, but I think it speaks to how you handle yourself professionally as well. You assess situations very effectively, and you're decisive in terms of what you're going to do, and you live with the consequences and make adjustments and adapt as you need to moving forward. I think it speaks volumes in terms of how you conduct yourself professionally just as well.
Well,
Absolutely.
like we said, I want to develop other leaders, and I think it's really important for any dealership out there. You got to have a succession plan, and I'm working on my own succession plan right now.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, here's a quick
You're also
comment
leading by example.
from Megan O'Farrell. She says, last week I purchased a used Camaro from a Chevrolet dealership. On my way home, the clutch went out. The dealership is currently replacing the clutch at no cost to me. Had I bought from Carvana, there's no way that I would have received the same level of personal service based on their business model. It's just not possible. I don't believe that Carvana can remain competitive with local dealerships. Well, we're going to find out. I'll tell you, Megan, I think the story is still being written with respect to what's going on at Carvana. I'll tell you, Rob, they're taking it on the chin right now. And, people will say what they want. They have yet to turn a profit. And I know the losses have been substantial, but I also know that the two founders, or the one founder, one and 1A, one is on the paper, one is not, did put about $400 million of their own money back in order to fund the acquisition of Odessa. How do you see the acquisition of Odessa affecting the Carvana business model? I'm curious.
Carvana, it was almost an experiment because the consumer has spoken for years that they don't like the old traditional model of selling or buying a car, right? So they come in and they go all the way one side where it's a full digital, full, don't have to deal with the salesperson. I think we learned a lot. The consumer wants something different. Well, we're also learning a lot. Well, they don't want that either. Right. So it's people still want to buy from people. And
right.
As a dealer, we're been involved in our communities. We support them. We employ them. Me personally, I'd much rather do business with a company like that than a big corporation like Agreed. A Carvana, where you're just, one of whatever. but they have taken market share. So I think as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, you got to recognize what people like and what they don't like. And
I would agree. You know, I think the size of their market share is
Yeah.
minuscule. People don't realize this. I mean, they sold several 100,000 vehicles, but it's minuscule in comparison to the overall used vehicle market, which during normal times is about 45 million cars annually.
Correct.
That's a number. Like, people don't realize that the used car market's 3x plus the new car market. And so they've taken an absolutely minuscule section or sliver of the market share on the used vehicle side. I agree with you. I think that the pendulum will swing back the other way. I think there are lessons that we can learn from Carvana and implement in our business models. But I believe that people will genuinely want to do business with other people as part of the process. And by the way, Amazon figured that out too. You know, you've got Amazon pickup and drop off locations throughout the country right now. They used the purchase of Whole Foods to have a face-to-face business model as well. And I suspect that there's more coming.
I agree. I mean, it's why we have to get better, you know,
Yeah.
but I still think that there is a market for someone like yourself, has a friend named Joe. You are a friend with a guy named Rob. You trust Rob. Okay. You know that I'm going to take care of Joe because he's friends of Sandy. And obviously it's my personal reputation, and my people are the same way. You
Absolutely.
don't get that from a Carvana. You
Accountability.
don't get that from those
Rob,
things.
what you just spoke to, and this is going to be a shameless plug for the 7 pillars of killer business development, but you just spoke right to what it is that we teach each and every day, and it's how we live our lives professionally, Ron and I, because the reason I was contacted was because I'm perceived as a trusted advisor and expert on the topic, and that's why my phone rang when he didn't know who to call or what to do, right? And so we teach selling professionals all over the country to do the exact same thing, and not just in retail automotive. We're doing it in real estate services and insurance services and B2B businesses, because the thing that is critically important is your network. Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you can leverage network and be the most trusted advisor, in your marketplace or in your network, it's going to be your phone that rings and your inbox that dings each and every time somebody doesn't know who to call or what to do. And that connection becomes the conduit to drive business. And that's scalable, by the way. That's the important part.
You were Joe's car guy. You were Joe's car guy.
100%.
Exactly.
And then instead of, you're not necessarily working at a dealership, but you go to somebody that you trust that is going to represent you. And I did the same thing with people within our organization. So you got to have that network and that, that
every single person that is associated in a dealership should be exposed to the philosophy and the strategy behind the 7 pillars of killer business development, simply because your technicians, your advisors, your parts people, your admin staff, your accounting department, your BDC, everybody knows people, and those people are not walking or riding bicycles to work. By and large, those folks are driving motor vehicles. And it's critically important. But I love the fact that you are focused on scaling and keeping it human at the same time. So any last thoughts to share with the audience before we wrap here, buddy? I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot on your plate, but any last thoughts you want to share with the audience?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, I believe it's going to keep the challenge is not over, and it's only going to be becoming more challenging. So the things we've learned have just prepared us for what's coming as well. So that's what I would say.
Tools and tools, my friend.
Yep.
Yeah. The struggle is real and going to keep on continuing, and it ain't going to be easier. And so we just got to be better, as the great Jim Rohn said. Don't wish it was easier, wish you were better, right?
Agree, 100%.
So,
improvement.
Well, listen, everybody, make sure you follow Rob Ruth on all of the social media platforms. He's on LinkedIn, he's on Instagram, Facebook. I assume you're on TikTok. I don't know. I'm not, but
not yet.
Yeah, me neither. I'm not either.
On the 3 major ones for sure. Make sure you follow Rob. He's got great content, and he's genuine. He is the real deal. There is nothing phony or fake about Rob Ruth. He's exactly who he says he is, and I see that happen, each and every time I interact with him. So make sure you follow Rob, as well as Ron and I on all the social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Please make sure you click the subscribe button on the YouTube channel as well. It makes a difference. And visit sandycerami.com for all your recruiting, training, and profitability solutions. Today's interview was produced and distributed by Sadie Cerami and Associates. The executive producer, Mr. Ron Marvo, marvelous Ron Marvo. When you don't know who to call or what to do, it's usually our phone that rings and the inbox that dings. Today, we provide the most successful cost-cutting recruiting, leadership, and sales solutions under the sun, as well as innovative, profitable, and expense-crushing business solutions in the market today. Go to SadieCerami.com for more details. In the meantime, my man, we got to step up to stand out. And Rob Ruth, thank you. We are out, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.
Yep.